All right, welcome to the Explainer. This is where we break down really big ideas into simple visual summaries. Today we are going to dig into the work of the Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman, and we're going to try to understand the two very different systems that are running our brains. Okay, let's kick things off with a little puzzle. Just take a second, read it over. An answer probably just popped right into your head almost instantly. You got your answer? Good. Let's see how you did.
So if you thought 10 cents, don't worry, you're in very good company. That is the intuitive answer. It just feels right. But think about it for a second. If the ball is 10 cents and the bat is $1 more, well, that's $1.10 for the bat, which makes the total $1.20. So that's not right. The correct answer is actually 5 cents for the ball and $1.05 for the bat. And this little puzzle, it's the perfect introduction to the two characters that are constantly at work inside your head.
All right, so let's actually meet these two characters. Kahneman's big idea is that our entire mental life is basically just a constant interaction between them. So picture this. System 1. He's the star of the show. He's the fast, automatic hero who just does things. He runs on intuition and emotion. And then you've got System 2. He's kind of the supporting character. He's the slow, thoughtful, deliberate part of your mind. But, and this is the key, he's also incredibly lazy. He usually just lets the hero do whatever he wants.
So, System 1. It's just always humming along in the background. It's on autopilot, you know? It's doing all the stuff you don't even think about, like understanding the world around you, or skills that have become second nature, like reading a sentence, or even knowing the answer to 2 plus 2. It's where all our gut feelings, our intuitions, and our first impressions come from. And it all happens without you even trying.
Now, System 2, that's the one we think of as our self. You know, the conscious, rational part of you that's actually making decisions. It's the part that kicks in when you have to do something hard, like multiply 17 by 24, or scan a crowd for a friend's face. But here's the kicker we saw with that bat and ball problem. System 2 is just lazy. It takes real effort to fire it up, so a lot of the time it just goes along with whatever System 1 suggests.
And this quote really nails it. Here's the bottom line. System 1 is just constantly tossing ideas, intuitions, feelings over to System 2. And most of the time, System 2 just kind of shrugs and says, yeah, it sounds good, without even checking the work. This works out fine most of the time, but it's also where a lot of our thinking errors come from.
Okay, so what happens when you have this team up, right? A fast, kind of sloppy hero, and a super lazy controller running the whole show? Well, as we're about to see, it makes us predictably irrational.
See, for System 1 to be so incredibly fast, it can't possibly look at all the facts. So it takes shortcuts. We call these heuristics. And a lot of the time, what it's really doing is swapping out a hard question for a much easier one.
Okay, here's another quick one for you. Just think about this for a second. Now, how is your brain trying to solve this? I bet you're doing exactly what I did. You're trying to think of words, right? Like kitchen, kite, king.
And that right there, that's what Kahneman calls the availability heuristic. It's just way, way easier to pull up words that start with K than words that have K somewhere in the middle, like ask or bake. So because those examples come to mind so easily, our brain just assumes they're more common. But get this, it's not true. In English, there are about twice as many words with K as the third letter.
And it gets even trickier because of another feature of System 1, something Kahneman calls YCIAT. That stands for what you see is all there is. Our brain is amazing at taking whatever scraps of information it has and weaving them into a neat, coherent story. The problem is, it completely ignores all the information it doesn't have.
And this quote just perfectly explains why that YSIIT thing is so dangerous. Our confidence doesn't come from how much we know. Nope, it comes from how good the story is that our brain tells us with the little bit it does know. A simple, convincing story just feels way better than admitting that things are complicated or that we're missing pieces of the puzzle. So you put it all together, these mental shortcuts, this what you see is all there is thing, and what do you get? We leap to conclusions based on barely any evidence. We cook up a story that makes sense, we feel super confident about it, and our lazy System 2 doesn't even bother to stop and ask, hey, wait a minute, what am I missing here?
All right, so let's shift gears and look at how all this machinery plays out in one of the most important areas of our lives, how we think about risk, gains, and losses.
Okay, take a look at these two choices. In problem 1, you're gaining money. What do? Most people, and probably you, take the sure thing, right? The safe $500. We're risk-averse. But now look at the second problem. Suddenly you're losing money. And what happens? Most people completely flip. They roll the dice. They become risk-seeking, just to avoid that guaranteed loss. Why do we do that? The math is identical, but our choices are polar opposites.
And it all boils down to this incredibly simple but profound idea. Bad is stronger than good. Our psychological reaction to something bad is just way more intense than our reaction to an equally good thing. This is a huge concept called loss aversion. Basically, the sting you feel from losing $100 is way more powerful, psychologically, than the pleasure you get from winning $100. And this deep-seated bias to avoid losses shapes pretty much everything, from how we invest in the stock market to how we negotiate our salary.
And check this out. This isn't just some vague feeling. Scientists have actually put a number on it. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio. The pain of losing $100 feels about as intense as the pleasure of gaining $200. And that explains why for most of us to even consider a 50-50 bet, the potential upside has to be at least double the potential downside.
Okay, so here's the million-dollar question, right? If our brains are wired with all these glitches, what the heck are we supposed to do about it? How do we get smarter, make better judgments?
Well, the answer isn't to try and get rid of System 1. You can't. And you wouldn't want to. It's amazing most of the time. The real trick is to learn to recognize when you're walking into a mental trap. It's about knowing when it's time to pause, slow down, and deliberately wake up the big, lazy, analytical part of your brain, System 2.
And Kahneman gives this brilliant, super practical example for something like hiring. We all think our gut feeling about a person is great, but it's full of biases. So what do? You build a little system. Before you even meet anyone, you decide what really matters for the job. You create questions to test for those things, and you set up a scoring system. Then you just follow your own rules and resist the urge to go with your gut. It's a way to force System 2 to take the wheel.
And you can use that same kind of thinking in other parts of your life too. Start thinking like a trader. Don't get hung up on one single loss. See it as part of a bigger picture. You could create a risk policy for yourself, like I will never, ever buy an extended warranty. You make the rational choice once, so you don't have to fight your emotions every single time. These are all just simple ways to build a structure that forces you to slow down and be smarter.
So really, what it all comes down to is this. The goal isn't to stop trusting your gut. The goal is to get really good at knowing when your gut is probably lying to you. When the stakes are high, when a choice seems too easy, or when you feel that rush of overconfidence. That's your signal. That's the moment to take a deep breath and tell your System 1 to just slow down for a second and ask your System 2, okay, what am I not seeing here?